Danny had a real droll sense of wit. There was a fella called Curtin in our class, and Danny used to regularly say, "Curtin, you've no reason for doing that." Spitz was another unfortunate Jesuit, Father Michael O'Reilly. He couldn't speak without spitting, the poor fella. And I remember one day in class, Jim Lillis was sitting in the front row, and Spitz was giving us a geography lesson, and Lillis was getting shot. So it just got too much for him. So in the end, he just "Ní ball for who amok, ní ball for who," which means you won't be drowned, but he really was. He then became a boy soprano, this fella. He went into acting in school, in the jazz. When his voice broke, he went backstage working. He went rowing. He joined the FCA. He went into the ESB after school. And there's a marvellous chapter, very important chapter actually, about rural electrification with the ESB. He talks about going to dances, obviously. This is what young men did in those days, and bringing girls home. And he actually makes it sound very innocent. Now, I asked a lady today who knows Dickie well, I said, "Can you give me anything nasty on Dick Byrne?" I mean, Jesus, it seems reading this book as if he was pure as the driven snow. She says, "I wouldn't like to be in that snowstorm." He joined the offices of Simon J. Kelly. He started to play rugby, got very involved again in rowing and dancing. And then there's this curious bit he talks about going to dances where the local girls during the summer would warn the lads not to dance with them because the girls were looking for talent. He still hasn't got the message. Jesus Christ, I couldn't believe it. The innocence of it. He started playing the trumpet, he started playing the guitar. They formed a band called the Comets. They played all over the west of Ireland, and there's some hilarious stuff about journeys to and from these. He got involved in folk singing. This is a Renaissance man we're talking about here. Playing the guitar, and eventually got to act in the Tyvark. And I have to say, this is where I got to know him first. And certainly in on Tyvark the Gallivan. He was a bit of a Renaissance man because he was the backstage man. He did the sets, painted the sets, acted in the plays, wrote pantomimes. His 20th pantomime, for God's sake, is about to go on stage shortly. Directed plays. He did the whole lot. He did the publicity. In fact, he became the best known voice in Galway. Because if you can remember back to those days when he set up this summer show called Show Them, and the feckin' loudspeaker would go around the town. Show the, show the, show the. Ring 20241 or whatever the number was. It drove us all nuts, but it was a brilliant concept and a brilliant idea. And he had a terrific acting career as well. And I'm happy to say we shared in a few of them. Mick Hannon, who is here tonight, and myself and himself and Cyril Mahoney had the great pleasure of working in one called Godot, a Fannach le Godot, the first ever Irish language production. And we had great fun. We were absolutely knackered, by the way, most of the time. And I remember Alan Simpson, who was an ex-army man. He was the guy who directed us, and he worked us very hard. And one night, after rehearsals, we were shattered. And the whole thing is about tramps who are down on their luck anyway. We went down into the Castle Hotel, and we went into the bank. And we got 4 pints, and Simpson sat down with his drink. And a row started in the front. This was an Iron Island house. And we were looking out. There was fists flying, and stools flying, and bottles flying. And the army major was going, "Banana, stop them, stop them." "We don't care. We're just too wrecked." And we were. But it was all such a pleasure. He talks about going into the movies, working in Ardmore. He talks about joining Potes, going to Paris to live in Paris. He talks about his life as an architect. This guy had his fingers in a lot of pies. He wore a lot of hats. But I have to say, it made a very sort of rounded man out of him. He's been involved in so many aspects of Galway life, really. And it's amazing how much has been squeezed into this book. It's quite extraordinary. It's very keenly observed. There's a lot of very important, I have to say, social history in here, and it's a real page turner. I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just a marvellous overview of Galway life, and it's a real pleasure to be here this evening to formally launch the book.
Well said.